Now we are talking about emotions. They're hard to talk about and get out of our children. Jeff Londraville, he's the author of The Filter, and he's here to teach us about handling our children's emotions and our own. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here, Seth.
Why do we get emotions? First of all, let's break it down to the absolute base level. What are emotions? Why do we get them?
Well, we first have to think where emotions come from. Emotions come from our thoughts, and our thoughts come from our experiences. So those experiences throughout our life, whether it's our childhood, whether it's our adulthood, will tell us how we should feel. But ultimately, we have to figure out then, okay, we're feeling this way, we thought about this is now our emotion, what can we control and what can we do about it so it doesn't hurt us and it makes us more aware of things, and not in a negative way, but more of a positive way.
And someone once told me it's all about controlling the controllables. You can't let everything get to you, you can't let emotions get in the way, but you need to control what you can control.
Right, and if we looked at that in more of a context of we can control more than we think we can, and would not be a victim of life, but actually go towards life and say, okay, I understand where this comes from, and the more that we understand, the more we feel in control. And it really relieves the part of being a victim.
So Jeff, we're going to help people out there feel a little bit more in control today. We're going to talk about the 4 branches of emotional intelligence. The first branch is perceiving emotions. Now, what does that mean?
Well, perceiving emotions is basically understanding what someone's saying, sometimes without even speaking. Now, that might not be clear to some people, but you can tell a lot from somebody how they carry themselves, their body language, and basically how they're teaching the world to treat them. And we do that in many different ways, from our dress to how we carry ourselves, but also our body language. Our body language is so important, and it tells so much before the words even come out.
There's that quote, it's you expect the love that you think you deserve.
Exactly.
That's one of those things, the better you treat yourself, the better other people will treat you.
Exactly, and it goes back to the control factor we were talking about. People think, oh, this happens to me, this person treats me this way. You have to ultimately look at, am I teaching this person that I'm allowing this to happen to me? Now, life's not always fair, and some people are going to be unfair to you, but for the most part, you have more control of how people treat you.
The second branch of emotional intelligence, it's reasoning with our emotions.
Right, and it's basically finding out, where does this come from? Where can I go with it? And is it serving me? Is this emotion serving me? And what I mean by that is basically, is it making things better or worse? Am I crying or getting upset and angry where it makes my life more difficult? Or am I taking that energy, that crying or being upset, or I'm talking about more negative in this term, then using it to make my life better or the people around me better?
The next thing that's important is to understand our emotions. And it might be the most important thing, because we have all these impulses all the time. People say things to us. We hear things about ourselves. But we need to understand how we feel and our own emotions.
Right. This is probably the most important part of the branches of emotional intelligence. And the emotional intelligence is so key in understanding, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I need to do. Take a step back and let your intelligence catch up to the emotion of what's the best thing for me here, what's the best thing in this situation. Now, this is not easy to do, but it is much better for yourself and all the people around you.
Well, Jeff, what if you can't do it? What if you're feeling all these emotions, you or your child perhaps, and you just don't know what the problem is or why you're feeling this way, and you don't understand your emotions?
Right, that's a great point, Seth. This happens to a lot of people. They're so into it, they're so close to it that they can't see the answers. And that's really where people that you can turn to, that you love, that you admire, role models that are so important in your life, whether it's through school, whether it's at work, whether it's in your family. Because if you look at it this way, if you had all answers on a sheet of life or on a paper, and it was that close to your face, you'd want someone to back it away so you could actually see it. And they're not emotionally attached to it. They're not going through it. So they simply take the answers and they have you see it from a different angle. And you say, of course, now I see it. And it really helps you through things.
Yeah, it's like all those problem-solving things, you need to get multiple sets of eyes on it, because you don't always see the angles. And when it comes to parents and dealing with their children, I think we talked about this before, but you need to realize that there's a team and you need to talk with that team. You know, counselors and teachers, everyone needs to work as a unit. Definitely.
It goes back to the old term, it takes a village. I strongly believe in that. Everybody around you, whether it's neighbors, schools, parents, we need to come together for our kids and for our adults, as a matter of fact. People need to look out for each other more and more. And that then helps everyone's emotion, because when you give, you're actually giving back to yourself. And it really does take a village. And we need to look at that more. If more people looked at it that way, I think we'd be better off.
Yeah, if there's more communications, less of those emotions are going to slip through the cracks, and people are always going to feel heard and then maybe they can understand all of the emotions that they're feeling.
Exactly. I mean, if you talk about it and you have a meeting on it of some type, and everyone understands this is what this person's going through, the understanding of it controls the emotions for the person and everybody around them. So then the emotions don't lash out into frustration. And the reason why people really get into bad situations, whether it's alcohol, drugs, nicotine, whatever it may be, is really because they're frustrated, they look for an escape, but they can't escape from their own life. So that emotion of frustration, anger, and sadness says, I want to relieve this right away. I want to turn to something that makes me feel good or makes me escape. And really, it's not the way to go. The escape is, how do I face this? Who do I talk to in the right ways to make my life better? Not be addicted to something and make it much worse.
And that's why it's your last tip, is to manage your emotions. And that's, I guess, the penultimate. It's what it comes down to. It's once you understand it and once you have that construct in control, you can help to really manage your emotions.
Right. And I don't think enough people think they can manage their emotions. They think, again, like I've said before, things happen to them. This person made me angry. Not without your permission, they didn't. This person made me sad. Well, why'd they make you sad? It's your thoughts that interpreted that you should be sad from what they've said. If we look at it that way, that you have more control than you think you do, life would be better for a lot of our teenagers, a lot of our kids, and a lot of our adults. Life doesn't happen to you. Like I said, you happen to life. But you have to understand, how to work with the world so the world can work with you.
It's about being honest, and it's about talking about your emotions and being able to have people comment on them too.
Right. And that goes into the whole communication process. We want to understand how to communicate, to share people with our emotions in the right way, to get the answers we want, and ultimately to become happier.
Jeff, thanks for communicating with us today. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
And for these tips and more, head to mymassappeal.com later today. And coming up on